right, so normally we don't talk about drama on here. I mean, we did talk about Tfue and FaZe and Pro Jared and all that stuff, but this is Game Explain. We didn't talk about the offline TV stuff because that stuff was obviously very sensitive, along with the Smash stuff. But I think that
Right.
this drama in particular is noteworthy to sort of cover because I think that it is worth discussing or whatever.
Right.
So, Game Explain. So first, before I even talk about any of this, what was your sort of like relationship with Game Explain as like a viewer? Because like my
Um,
relationship with them is obviously different from yours, so I just want to see what your perspective on Game Explain is. So,
so I actually did watch Game Explain quite a bit.
hmm
Mostly Derek and Ash, which again that would be important later, because they kind of moved to a different channel.
hmm
So once they started leaving, like, I think everyone left like a few months ago. I kind of just stopped watching Game Explain because like I just didn't really care about any of the new people. Obviously, that's not really fair to say because I didn't have time to like sort of like grow or whatever. But, I
hmm
actually really like Derek's reviews and like Ash's reviews as well, and I just like hearing their opinions on games, especially Derek. Like he was one of my favorite Game Explain people. Also John, because he did a lot of review stuff and a lot of the news coverage. But when they all left, I just felt like that was weird. They all left at the same time. I thought that was a little sus as well. I'm like, I don't know if that was in good terms or something happened, but I'm just like, okay, whatever. I guess they're all gone now. So Game Explain doesn't really have much to offer me anymore. So I kind of just stopped like watching their stuff.
hmm
And then when everyone they all made their own new channel like Good Vibe Gaming, which is their new channel with Derek, Ash, and everyone else. I subscribed to them. I would start watching like not every because they upload a lot of like sort of like podcasty type things like 3 times a week or something. So I'll watch
hmm
them occasionally. So then I actually heard this like before the news broke out because I heard this in their sort of like Game of the Year podcast. I'm like, wait, what? Game Explain did what? I'm like, oh, but then it kind of made sense, and we'll go more into that real soon. But what was your experience with them?
I mean, my first experience with them was I was playing Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck, I want to go and get these, like collectibles." So then I went on YouTube, looked it up, and Game Explain was obviously the fucking channel that like went through all that shit. And I was like, "All right,
Yeah.
cool, dope. I'll just watch this video, get what I need to get done, and dip." And back then I was like, yeah, you know what? I will subscribe to see like what Nintendo content that they're gonna release. And then after like a couple of months, I was like, fuck, they like spam upload every single time a new Nintendo game comes out.
Yes,
So
they
then
do.
I just unsubscribed and like I would like pop in every once in a while to like look at their reviews for like whichever game I was like super excited about or whatever the case was. They were able to like get their hands on and sort of like give us like a first impression of it. So like I never like really got to know like who the Game Explain people were other than Andre, which was like the I guess
Yeah, the main guy.
yeah, the main dude. So like when you say like Derek and like all of these other names, I kind of have an idea of who they are, but I'm not like super familiar with them.
Right.
But yeah, definitely with like within our friend group, we definitely meme on like the fucking like analyst videos that they do. Did you see
Yeah.
that shit there? Like, oh my
Yeah,
god, I think that's Mario. Like,
They definitely pad those out way too much, and I'm like, okay, like you don't need a 40-minute video on like Mario Odyssey, like 2-minute trailer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
like those videos in general, like I never watch those because I'm just like super
me
duper
neither.
analyzing like trailers and stuff like that. Just isn't like appealing to me, and like having someone like explain like what this is and like what this means, I'm just like I don't really care. But that's just me. Like no offense to anyone that did watch that sort of content. But yeah, definitely like my relationship with Game Explain was that I knew who they were, but like I just didn't watch their stuff because I was just like they just didn't really appeal to me for me personally.
Right.
Either because I didn't watch it or because they just spam upload or whatever the fuck. So what is the drama? Let's just go and get into that. So they are being accused of overworking and underpaying staff. So I'm just gonna take some quotes from the Game Industry Biz article that I got here. So on January 2nd episode of their Today's News podcast, which is the Good Vibes Gaming, Bolin recalled
Yeah.
having to play through last year's Final Fantasy VII Remake when Square Enix sent the review code just 2 days before the embargo lifted. I don't think I've ever I don't think I've ever suffered more to make a video than I did for this game, said Bowling, adding that his wife encouraged him to leave Game Explain as soon as possible when it was over, to which Bolin realized the channel's working practices were not defensible. Bowling, who was contributing to Game Explain while also working a full-time job elsewhere, was reportedly paid $550 a month, regardless of how long he spent on the videos. In case of the Final Fantasy VII Remake review, a post from his wife claims his work payout was $1 to $2 an hour. So,
Yeah.
obviously, if like you get a RPG 2 days before the fucking embargo, there's no fucking way you're getting that shit done. Like, no way. Like a JRPG 2 days before the embargo lifts, you would literally have to kill yourself to like get that shit done, along with the help of other people to like edit the video or whatever the case is, you know? So I don't know why like Andre didn't like step in or like say anything, because I guess he just like didn't care. Is like what my understanding is after reading like his statements or whatever. Just because like, if like, all right, so let's say like, you know, your boss gives you something that it can be done within like a week, but he says you got to get this shit done in 2 days. There's no fucking way you're gonna walk out of that room and be like, okay, boss, I got it. Like, no way, right?
Right. Yeah, it's this definitely is like two's at fault here. Like Square obviously is at fault for giving away review codes for like a JRPG 2 days before it happened, like before you had to
Mm-hmm.
like before the embargo lifted,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also Andre's fault for not being like defending like, hey, it's okay to delay the review. You could wait like an extra week. We won't get as many viewers, but it's like whatever. But obviously he didn't really care about that. He wanted the views because who's gonna watch a review a week later? Like people want
Mm-hmm.
the reviews as soon as the embargo lifts. So yeah, he was also kind of at fault here. Um, and yeah, it's just like it also just detracts your enjoyment from the game. I actually listened to this
Yes.
podcast, and he's Steve is his first name. Steve said when he was reviewing this game, like he had to ask Derek to look over his notes because it was just a bunch of like gibberish because he was like working all those 2 days to get this whole game like review script done, and it's not fair for the game or the reviewer to like have them work on this review in like 2 days because you can't really make a comprehensive review, especially for like such a large game like Final Fantasy VII Remake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was definitely just a crappy situation for everyone involved. But definitely the blame kind of lays on Square and on Andre for not really like Square for not sending review codes out earlier, and Andre for not like stepping in and being like, hey, you could here's an extra few days to like work on his review. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of where that sort of like my stance on that.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to like embargoes lifting, like you don't have to like drop it as soon as the embargo lifts. Like there have
Yeah,
been like
yeah,
I don't watch Angry Joe anymore because he said
me
it
either.
and,
Yeah.
has done some things that are kind of weird or whatever. And I don't have full context to like what he's done. But just like hearing stuff about that, I'm just like, I don't even like want to like associate myself with it. Anyways, when like embargoes lift for games for him, like he obviously like takes the fucking time to like make the review and sort of like take his time with the game. When I would watch him back then, like when every fucking game outlet like IGN, GameSpot would be dropping their reviews, Angry Joe would like drop his like a week or two later or even longer, and he would still get the views that he would get back then. And when it comes to something like this, like you said, when you're like rushing a game to like get a video out, your enjoyment of it definitely diminishes, which is like a prime example for me personally, when it comes to my sort of like, I guess, amateur side of like doing YouTube and just like making game reviews and all that stuff is God of War on the PS4. When I was playing that game, I was sort of just like rushing through it just so I could like talk about it. But like I really shouldn't have done that because that really like diminished my enjoyment of the game, and I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more if I just like took my time with it and like actually like took the game in for what it was. Which is why like later this year, I actually plan on revisiting that game, hopefully giving myself enough time to like actually re-talk about it and sort of like try to go in there with a blank slate and not like rush myself into it again.
Yeah, because that game is
So
so good. I
yeah,
really liked it.
a lot of people love that game, and when I said that like it wasn't even within like my top 5 like PS4 games, like a lot of people obviously got upset, which is understandable because like people love that game and it deserves the accolades that it has gotten. And fuck it goddamn won Game of the Year when it came out, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it
it
went over Red Dead. Yeah.
yeah, it obviously is like a super duper good game, but like I just like rushed through it and just like didn't fully experience what the game actually was. So yeah, and like the fucking pay, like $550 a month. Are you serious, dog? Like you're all right. So having the excuse of like, oh, but you're just playing games for a living, like, bitch, motherfucker. Like he has this sort of like Derek, right? Or
Yeah.
Bowling or whatever. Like
Steve,
these
yeah,
guys, yeah.
yeah.
These guys, they have their own audience on GameXplain. People watch their reviews for them because they've been on GameXplain for so long, right? That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So people watch them for them, not for the actual game. So the fact that Andre didn't like notice that, or like even like take into like consideration that like, oh, like so like when Derek reviews a game, it gets this many views, and then when Bowling reviews a game, it gets this many views, you know? So when you have one of your guys who is probably one of the faces of GameXplain, along with yourself as like the owner, and being like, oh shit, like we just got the code, like fuck, like you're not gonna give them more time or even fucking more $1 to $2 an hour? Are you shitting me? Like that is like not even like my fucking retail job. I get more than $550 a month across 2 paychecks. So
Yeah.
like
I was
and like
gonna
that's
say I'm a janitor and I get more. I'm a
like
custodial.
yeah, and like the hours that I'm working are not even close to the amount of hours he probably put in just to play Final Fantasy VII and then review it and like talk about it and like have all of his thoughts in there and shit like that. Like, oh my god, like he should be paid maybe triple this amount. I'm gonna be honest because like when you talk about a RPG, especially something like this, you know, like long games in general, like you want to get as much as you want on paper and on your notes as possible and try to not like miss details. Once again, for example, when I was talking about Spider-Man Miles Morales in my video, I think I missed out on like talking about like the upgrade system or whatever, which like isn't a big deal because like it was more of the same from like the 2018 game or whatever.
Right.
But even then, like you want to like talk about that in your video. So I would imagine, like I don't even know how long like this like Final Fantasy video was or like how many views it got and like how well it did for the GameXplain channel. But for how big GameXplain is, like as a brand and like as a name, like he should be getting paid fucking triple, quadruple this amount every month. Like without a doubt. And like I guess Andre just didn't think about that or like he's just fucking greedy. I don't know what it is, but it just seems ridiculous to me personally that like when you have someone tasked with playing a super duper long game and you want him to, you know, do a review on it and all of this other sort of like content stuff and only give them less than $1,000 a month, that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the pay should have definitely been way more than what it was. Because $550 a month, that's like literally like nothing. Again, we make more off our like just entry level jobs than he was making. So
yeah.
yeah,
Obviously, like, you know, he is playing a game, but then again, like that's still like a job and he's still like working. Cause like I would imagine that like maybe if he wanted to play Final Fantasy VII, then like even that, fuck this argument, whatever. I just started talking about fuck this. Anyways, it's still a job. That's the end of the day here. And like we're gonna get into Andre's response. Do you have anything to add to this sort of like I guess a little like podcast segment that they had?
no, that was about it. It didn't really like want to linger too much. It just kind of exploded when people heard about it, and then they really went into it. But yeah, it was basically just that was just like really like just working like 2 days straight on this review that you know that they had to put out just because of the embargo lifted. So yeah, it just was kind of a garbage situation for everyone involved.
All right, so Andre's first response. I'm gonna read this one fully. I'm not gonna read the second one because that's a twit longer and it's actually like
it's a lot longer. Yeah.
decently long. So the first one, statement by Andre S. of GameXplain. For many years, I worked with a group of talented and driven independent contractors on our videos. We shared a deep love of gaming, and I'm forever grateful for their contributions as our channel grew from an idea to an incredible online community full of amazing fans. When these contractors chose to branch off to launch their own YouTube channel, I gave them my full support and to this day wish them every success. I was quite upset to hear their experiences because I consider them true friends, and I hate that they felt subjected in any way to unfair compensation or unrealistic deadlines, often a result of adhering to tight embargo deadlines beyond our control. It was never my intention, as I respect these former colleagues immensely, professionally and personally. I'm not a perfect person, and there are enormous challenges in managing a channel, but I promise that I absolutely committed to ensuring open communications, a positive work/life balance, and fair, timely compensation for my team as we move forward and navigate the pressures of the gaming industry. So, fucking YouTubers suck at apologies, and this one obviously blows too, because this motherfucker used independent contractors twice before saying true friends. That's one. Two, he obviously said amazing fans to sort of pull you in. If you are a Game Explained, watcher, to be like, oh, he called me amazing. Like, no, bro, no, no, no. And then I think he straight up lied at the end when he said timely compensation, because in his next statement he straight up admits that like, yeah, I suck at like paying on time and shit like that.
He did, yeah.
So it's like, bro, like, it's like, just fucking admit you're wrong, especially in a situation like this where like everyone is like already against you. And like he fucking turned off replies for this thing, but like even then, like you can still like quote retweet it, which is like what a lot of people did. People just quote retweeted this shit, and like some comment Johnny's thing is he's the one that fucking pointed out. He said independent contractors before true friends. This shit done. And I was like, that is true, bro. What the fuck? So yeah, that's just
it just shows that like it was more of like a business thing than like a friend thing. Even though he tries to fix that in his follow up like tweet longer, saying like, oh no, they were like my friends and I feel betrayed or whatever. But I'm like, well, you should have gave them more money and you should have like paid them on time. Like I think those are the two issues that they were really having, and it makes sense that basically like every GameXplain member left and he had to get a bunch of new people. And I'm really hoping he's treating these newer people right and not like sort of subjecting them to the same low pay, insane hours. And because every time you get flooded with those videos of GameXplain, like that's someone making them, and that like they probably put like a bunch of hours to make every single one of those like news videos. So yeah, I'm hoping to get paying a lot more. He said he was gonna address that, and I'm hoping those newer GameXplain members get decent compensation than the previous ones, because that's not acceptable. And just with the gaming industry as a whole, with crunch as we've been hearing about throughout the last year, it really shows that it's an issue with every part of the gaming community, not just developers, but also like reviewers and like just even YouTube channels like this. Like it's always crunch everywhere, and hopefully this will be a problem that's like fixed now, because again, it's not fair to subject these people to like such low pay and like long hours. So
yeah, definitely. When he said talking about the Final Fantasy thing, I don't know why he just said the reviewer seemed eager to dive in. Like, just fucking say his name, bro. We all know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The reviewer seemed eager to dive in, and I got caught up in their excitement. So he's trying to shift the blame to them. But I know only too well how draining rushing to meet an embargo can be, as I've subjected myself to those same conditions. So if you fucking subjective yourself to these same conditions, why don't you just tell him like, hey, bro, like if this is like genuinely like your friend, right, and you're like doing a business with this person, like, hey, bro, like just like take your time. If anything, like just get it by set a fucking date, like next week, the week after, whatever the fuck. Not fucking 2 days, bro, to finish a Final Fantasy 7. Damian, how long did that, like, just like the main stuff, how long do you think that is?
Main story was like at least 45 hours. So
okay,
imagine
45
40 hours in like 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's no fucking way. Like that's actually just the full 48 hours, bro. That's you playing the game while writing notes, and then 3 hours to like fucking write the script and then do all of the other bullshit that you have to get done. Like that is unrealistic, fucking insane. Like if you know this so well, like you should have said something. You can't get caught up in someone else's excitement, especially since like this is something that like let me try to gather my thoughts here, because I'm kind of like fucking mad. Because all right, if you're really like this like familiar with this, right? Like if you're familiar with like crunch and all of this other bullshit that you've subjected yourself to in GameXplain, and then someone is like, oh, like I can't wait to play Final Fantasy 7, we got to get this out in fucking 2 days. You tell them that without like realizing like how unrealistic that is, then that's fucking on you. He was probably just thinking about like I think the meme and like the sort of like, I guess the way people view Andre now is that like he's just fucking Mr. Krabs and just like greedy for money.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And like he just saw like, oh bro, fucking Final Fantasy 7 review, bro, the numbers on that are gonna be insane. So he probably was just thinking about that or whatever. Obviously, we don't know what the fuck he's thinking, because now the entire internet hates him, which is understandable, but obviously not sort of like fully warranted, because he is a human being at the end of the day, but he did really fuck up here. But yeah, I just think that when people mess up, I think when people are willing to say, yeah, I fucked up here, is it really does say a lot about their character instead of like trying to shift the blame to someone else or try to make an excuse for it. Because 100%, like, just to go on like a small tangent here, is
Yeah.
like when I play League, like whenever I fuck up, I'm like, oh my bad, like fucking my fault, whatever. What when other people play League, I'm sure that this is like a majority of the fucking bro, my fucking jungler, bro, my fucking oh my god, like some like bullshit that they just like come up with. It's so hard for people to just say like, oh, whoops, my bad. Like it's not even like that hard. It's just them trying to like, I guess like not sort of take fault or take blame, which is weird in my opinion, because it's like no one's fucking perfect. Like, just fucking admit you're wrong, admit you did something, not good, and then just move on.
Yeah, like definitely admitting to your mistake just kind of makes you look like a better person. Like, we all make mistakes, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
he did too. Like, was this all intentional? Like, I don't know, maybe, but it seems like he's not entirely a bad guy. Maybe he was just kind of dumb and like just didn't read the situation as well. I don't know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think anyone can really say.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely should have just admitted like, hey, this was kind of my fault. I'll make sure to, and he kind of did do that in his from the heart tweet longer, but he still got to again shifted the blame towards Steve and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, you could have done without that line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. Just admit that you're wrong. Just admit that like, hey, this was a mistake. I'll make sure that I treat my employees better. I didn't know it was as bad as it is, even though he probably should know, since he's a goddamn business owner. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely just like just admit that you're wrong, and a lot of people just don't do that on the internet. A lot of people will always shift the blame towards someone else. That's just unfortunately that's just how it is, with
Mm-hmm.
like everything.
Yeah. And like, even like, there's this thing about like mixing like circles of people. So like, your coworkers, your friends, and then like your like personal relationships.
Yeah.
And then when you start like mixing that stuff up together, it can get a little wishy-washy. So like, for example, like me and my brother are starting like our own like anime streetwear brand. And like we're brothers, so like it is a little different, but like, now money's involved. So like we have to like, make sure that like I'm paying half for everything and like he's paying half for everything as well. And like we're making sure that like costs are this, costs are that. So like, and we're also making sure that we're both putting in like our own like sort of like work, like what can he do, what can I do that like he can't do, and like vice versa, etc. So like, like with this podcast, like we don't make money like at all. Like we don't make
Right.
that much, but like when I do, like I try to offer it to Damien, and Damien's like, nah, it's okay. So instead I just give him a bunch of gifts. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that.
yeah, no problem. But yeah, I just like to, make sure that like, because we are such close friends, and because, I don't want to like taint any sort of like relationship because now money's involved or whatever the case is, like with Andre, if these are your friends, bro, like you have to like treat them as such. But
Yeah. It's just hard to work that balance, I guess, between like
mhm.
friends and like a professional working relationship because
especially,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I was gonna say.
especially,
Oh yeah,
uh,
go on. Yeah, go on.
especially when they start off as coworkers first, or like
Right.
boss
Yeah.
to sort of employee or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like when it starts off like that, and then you guys start to get close, it's like, like how does this work now? So yeah, that's just how I view it. I feel like that if I like, it's obviously easier to say like, if I was in Andre's shoes, I would have done this, this, and this. But like if these are people that you truly do care about and that you really do want to put like your best foot forward, you probably would have done it then. So
Yeah, yeah. If he actually did, like, he probably just would sat down, talk to all of them, and be like, hey, like, like I'm sorry that the pay is low. I'll pay you more.
hmm
Just talk about things. Have some good. Yeah. If you're gonna,
communication.
yeah, communication. It's all about communication, about like every relationship. So
hmm
yeah, that's just how it is.
Is there
Um,
anything else you want to add to this, or?
no, I think I said my piece on it.
All right, cool. So let's move on.